So you want to make a kill button, like in Among Us in Roblox Studio. So I did a little bit of preparation, just a couple of scripts, one to when the player connects, so because I needed to set some variables so I can have some flags. So during the imposter kill routines, I know who the imposter is and who a crewmate is, and and in the players removing, and I need to know how many players, how many crewmates there are, so I know when to end the round. This is the main loop. I've just got a game running, a variable, an imposter name variable, so we know who the imposter is. And we go through and pick the imposter from the total number of players who are in the round. We just do a loop, just loop this round until the game running value is 0. I just did a little GUI at the top of the screen so we can see who an imposter is and who a crewmate is. This is just a little local script. So it sends a status variable, which I set from the main loop just to display text. That's all it does at the top of the screen there. So I would say crewmate or imposter. So first of all, we need to make a script to detect who the nearest player is to the imposter. So this is where my imposter flag variable comes evident as well. So we'll just make a loop which will run forever, and we make a little light flag. This is used to determine if the kill button is already lit or not. It's just so we're not firing the client constantly, which can cause problems or lag. So first of all, we did a little loop. So we wait until the imposter name has been set, which is in game server storage under server variables, and then I've made a string value called imposter name, which gets set when we pick the imposter in the main loop. And then the next while loop is when the game is actually running. This value gets set in the main loop just before the round starts. So first of all, we need to check that if the game players, the player is actually, because we already know who the imposter is, we've set that to the variable player from the server variables imposter name value. And we just do a check to make sure they're still there, otherwise you're going to get errors. So we need to find the nearest crewmate. I'm just going to assign some variables. So the local character, which you will find in game.workspace, whatever the person's name, but you can get it from game.players, then the player's name, .character, exactly the same thing. And just set in the humanoid repart variable, which is basically just a character. Within the character in game.workspace. Then just some other variables that we will need to find the nearest player to the imposter. So the next thing we need to do is to go through each of the players who are connected to the server, and then we can determine how far away that player is. And we're only interested in the closest person. So we just need to do some checks to make sure we don't get any errors. So basically what we need to set as well, because we don't want to detect ourselves. So at the beginning, so we do a toString v. V is what's been going through. It will be the player's name from game.players. And we want to make sure that that v has a character, and within that character has a humanoid root part and the is not nil, just in case that person left as it's doing this check, which will also throw errors. So our target human root part is v.character.humanoid root part. And then this is where we actually determine how far away that person is from ourselves. So humanoid root part dot position is the imposter's position, and the target HRP, which is the humanoid root part, is the player from the for loop. So if that distance is less than the target distance, then we will just set that as the target distance equals that mag variable. So another check just to make sure they're still there. Otherwise you get errors and then the script fails. So we want to make sure they're in game.players and we want to make sure they're in game.workspace as well. So we're just setting a target character variable, which is the player's name. So when we go and actually kill that person, we know exactly who it is. So now, what we're going to do now is if that target distance is less than equals 6 studs away, then we know the person is in range of illuminating the kill button. Now you can change that number 6 to how many studs you like. You can set it to 1,000 studs away, or less, or 10, or 5, or whatever. And so type in there. You can change 6 to how many studs you want the kill button to be activated. So this is where our little light flag comes in. So if the light is 0, that means it's off. Then we'll set that variable to 1, and then we'll fire the client to illuminate the kill button. It's just that otherwise, if they're constantly in range, if we didn't have this light flag, it'd just be constantly firing the client, which we don't really need to. And I'm just sending the person who is in range their character name. And then we'll just do an else. On the target distance. So if you're greater than 6, so the crewmate has managed to get away and they're out of range, then if the light is on, then we set that flag back to 0 so it doesn't keep firing, and then we just fire the client to dull the imposter kill button. And you'll see later on in the local script that we will create uh, that all the different buttons that we create, so we can actually make the kill button non-selectable. So even if they clicked it, nothing would happen. So I'm just creating some remote events in replicated storage, so these fires can actually happen. So we're firing game.players square brackets player, which is the imposter. That's the imposter player. Okay, so now we're just going to create another replicated storage remote event where we need to enable the kill button, and we'll create another one to disable the kill button. So at the beginning of the round, we need to actually turn that button on. So I'm just adding that to our main loop. So the imposter actually gets the button and no one else does. So at the beginning of the loop, the beginning of this main loop, we can fire all clients to tilt the kill button off. So I'm just creating the remote event for that now. We're just going to pop that in at the very beginning of this loop. So at the start of each round, nobody has a kill button. So let's go ahead and create this kill button. So it shows on the screen. So let's create a screen GUI, call that kill. You can call it whatever you like. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm just going to add an image button. So we've added the image button. I'm just going to position it. You can position it or create whatever size you like. I think I made it quite small actually. So we create this, I do always do it in scale rather than the offset, which is in pixels. So it's scaled to the screen, no matter how big your screen is or how small, it'll always be in the same position relative to any other device. So we've got the little size, and then we just need to pop in the image asset ID, which is RBX asset ID colon / 57263833102, and then there's your kill image. I'm just going to rename that so it's not image button, it's kill. And then we need to create another image button which will go over the top, which will be the disable one. So this will dull the kill button so it looks like it's not active. So we just need to copy and paste the positions and sizes from the kill button into the disabled image label button, sorry, image button. And we're just going to change the background transparency to 1. You need as well to copy the image asset ID as well. And I was just changing the image color there to so it's gray, so it actually looks like it's grayed out as well. So just copy and paste that image ID in there. And then in the kill image, we just need to set the background transparency to 1 as well. To get rid of that white background. And there we go, there's the background transparency, to set that to 1. And there we go, there's your 2 buttons. So now we need to create a local script for this button. So we're going to do a whole host of stuff in here. We're going to set these remote events so we know when to turn the button on and off. Also, I forgot that we need to do a cooldown. I always like to put cooldown in so you can't spam kill. So there's I normally set like a 5-second cooldown. So I'm just creating a text label. Make sure the background transparency is 1. And I just like to change the font and check the text scaled as well. So you don't have to worry about different screen resolutions if you're going to hard code a font size. So back to our kill local script. So I always start mine always the same to get the player of the local player. So I have that information, and the kloc is the location of that kill screen GUI. Even though it says starter GUI in Explorer, when you actually play the game, it's within the player.player GUI dot whatever the screen GUI is called. In this case, it's kill. So I just do a wait for child because otherwise you're going to get an error because it not necessarily the screen GUI may not have loaded before this script is activated. So we'll just set some variables that we're going to need. So we're going to cooldown variable, a max cooldown. The cooldown is more of a flag to see if the actual cooldown is actually running. Max cooldown, that's the number of seconds it takes before you can actually kill again. So you can change that to whatever you like. A can kill flag. So if it's 0, you can't. If it's 1, you can. And a debounce as well. So you can't. It doesn't, because every time you press a button, it'll constantly run that part of the code unless you've got a debounce in there. So what will happen is we'll set that debounce to 1, so you can the code will only run once. So I'm just doing all these on-client events from the remote events. So the first one is to just turn the button on, just to turn that GUI on, so we can see. And remember to disable it and disable reset on spawn on that kill screen GUI as well. And then another on client event to disable the kill button, which will just turn the screen GUI off. And here's the other remote event of the light imposter kill. This what will illuminate, let's say. So basically all it does is just make the disabled image button invisible. So we just changed the visible property to false. Even though I am doing a typo at the moment, it is not disabled. I realize in a second. And we need to set selectable as well to false as well to make sure that button is not clickable. And also later on, when I was doing the debugging, there is another little change to this light imposter kill section. And here's the bit to grey out the kill button. So we're setting the can kill to 0 because we know we can't kill because we're out of range, and we're just making the reverse of the light. So we're going to enable the disabled image button to make that visible and selectable. So even if they clicked it and something went wrong, it's just belt and braces basically that it will click that disable button rather than the kill button. So the next thing is to detect when the kill button is clicked. So the kloc.kill, so kill is the image button, and mouse button 1 down. So once they've pressed the mouse button 1 down, then it will fire this function. So this is where our debounce comes in. So if debounce is 0, then we can continue. If we can kill, if that flags, so if we are in range and that light imposter on client event is fired, then the can kill will become 1. So if that happens, then we set can kill to 0 because we have a cooldown. we set that debounce to 1 so it doesn't keep running this code. We set the cooldown to, this is just basically the flag, so we set it to the max cooldown, which is currently 5 seconds. And then we're going to fire the server with the target character name. And we're just going to call this variable target. I forgot to put a local target at the top. So when we light the imposter kill, I forgot to add our target character. So I'm just going to call that target character. That's come from the imposter kill detection script. So we just need to put a local target so it knows. And then within here, we'll make target equal target character. Now we need to do our cooldown. So we're just going to create a simple for loop to count down from the max cooldown to 0, going backwards, and display that on the screen over the disable button. So what we need to do is enable the disable button, make it visible and selectable, and we want to make the cooldown text visible. So just uncheck that, so each time when the game starts, it's already off, because we can use the scripts to make that text visible and invisible by setting its visible property. So we're going the klot.disable, which is the disable button, .visible, so we're turning that on, so it's grey. So the kill button's grayed out, and we're making it selectable, and we're making the cooldown text visible as well. Oh, the text to the actual max cooldown, which is 5 seconds. And here we go. This is where we do. So we're counting down. So at the moment, max cooldown equals 5. So it'll go count down from 5 to 0, because I've put max cooldown, comma 0, comma -1. That's the step. So if you had it as a positive number as 1, it would go up. If you do a minus, it goes down. And then in a klot.disable.cooldown.text equals A, that's the number. So at the moment when it starts, it'll be 5, and then it'll wait a second, and then it'll go down to 4, and so on until it reaches 0, and then the for loop is terminated. So here I'm doing now is to make the text visible. And then once the for loop is finished, we make it invisible. So the 0 will disappear. So if the can kill is 0, this is just the else clause to that can kill 1, then we just want to make sure that the disable button is still visible, and the kill button looks like it's grayed out. So I'm just adding the kill remote event. So from the local script, so when we click that kill button, we need to fire the server to initiate the target's death. So we're just going to do again replicate storage dot kill dot on server event, and then create the function passing. The first argument is always player, and then the target, which is the person who we've just killed. It's their name. Now there's a little thing I forgot here, because I had a problem when I first created this thing, that sometimes this server event got fired twice, even though I'd set I created a debounce variable. So I actually make now an int value within server storage, server variables to do this debounce. It was more reliable. So I'm just calling that, I think it was kill debounce. So then we can say, and then in the main loop, we need to set that to 0. So at the start of each round, it's always 0. So the imposter can always kill. So if that's 0, then we set it to 1. So this is our debounce. So it doesn't run. So so they only run this code once. So we're just making sure that the target character, just make sure that character is still there. They haven't left the game. Otherwise, you're going to get an error. So target is the person who we've killed. And we're just going to set their health to 0, so it's insta-death. And then we just need to reduce the number of crewmates left, so we know if we've killed all the crewmates, then we know we've ended the round. So I'm just putting that in there. Because in the main loop we do a detection. When the game is running, I have a while loop, and when that crewmate's value reaches 0, then the game running variable gets set to 0, and then the while loop ends, and then it's game over, and then that's the end of the round. And I need to create another remote event just to reset that kill debounce value. We do that from the kill button script. So this is just the on server event. So this will be fired from the client. So after when we've done the cooldown, we'll fire the server to just reset that variable back to 0. So once the cooldown's ended, if another player's in range, we can kill again, or you can just kill again anyway for the next victim that comes along. So after our cooldown, we're just going to do, this is back in the kill button script. We're just going to fire that remote event to reset that because we know we've done the cooldown. We're ready to kill again. So I'm just doing a final scan check. Now there are some bugs in this at the moment. I do fix them later on. I was just hovering over the code, making sure. I mean, everything was kind of in order. There was a couple of little snags because when I tested it, I killed a player, and whilst they were still dead, I could potentially the kill button would light up again, and I could kill them again, even though they're already dead. So that was. Also this debounce needs to be reset in the kill local script for the kill button. So otherwise, when that kill button's lit, you will not be able to click it because the debounce was 1 and I never set it back to 0 after the cooldown. So back in the imposter kill detection, this is where I found that that even when the person we just killed is dead, I could potentially kill them again. So we just need to put another check in here that if the person we've just killed, if their health we need, well, just before we've killed them, we need to make sure that their health is greater than 0. So they are alive, and then we can set that target character to the person who we're going to kill. But if their health is 0, or is not, or is less than 0, I should say, well, it will be 0, then we just set that target character to null. And then when we do this target distance, just say target character doesn't equal null. Another quick bug. On line 34 in the imposter kill detection, I forgot to put humanoid in. And back in the kill button, local script. So we need to say if the cooldown is 0, which is when we're illuminating the thing, the button, just to make sure that flag is 0. There were some other little bugs that I found. So it's still in the kill local script. I've forgotten to set cooldown back to 0, which is our flag, because you could kill and then you couldn't kill again. So we just need to set that back to 0 after the cooldown has been completed. So there was an error on line 29 which kept being thrown. Now I did figure this out basically because I'm in Roblox Studio and doing a test. It was it wasn't loading the character quick enough. So at the start of the main loop, I just needed to put a wait in. In the real world, it may not, when it's been published and stuff, it may not be applicable to put this wait in. I did start with 5 seconds. That wasn't long enough, so I just went in for 10 seconds. It was just because everything was happening so fast that we were picking an imposter before the actual player, its actual character in game.workspace had loaded. So the imposter kill detection, when it was trying to get the distance between the imposter and another player, there was no humanoid repart because it hadn't even loaded yet. So I just put a wait in. 5 seconds wasn't long enough. 10 seconds seemed to make it happy. I mean, this all may depend on your speed of your machine, the performance of how quickly it can load things. I have a fairly decent machine, but 10 seconds seemed to work whilst I was testing. And that's it. Um, there is your kill button, which will light up, have a cooldown, be disabled, maybe try and incorporate it into one of your projects. Happy to help. Any other suggestions, then feel free to let me know. Thank you very much.